This is tricky.
This is tricky.
Tricky disco.
Tricky disco.
This is tricky.
This is tricky.
Tricky disco.
Tricky disco.
This is tricky.
This is tricky.
Tricky disco.
Tricky disco.
This is tricky.
This is tricky. This is Discotronic.
Tricky disco.
This is Discotronic.
Tricky disco. Tricky disco. Tricky disco. Tricky disco.
Disco. Disco.
Tricky disco. Disco. This is tricky disco. Disco. This is tricky disco. Disco. This is tricky disco. Disco. Tricky disco. This is tricky. This is tricky. This is tricky. Tricky disco. This is tricky. This is tricky. This is tricky. Tricky disco. Tricky disco.
This is Discotronic.
This is tricky disco. Tricky disco. This is tricky disco.
Tricky disco.